Today, I would like to tell you all more about the usage of the subject-verb agreements. So before I jump to this topic, let me briefly talk about the background information of the subject-verb agreements. So actually, we can trace the subject-verb agreements to the Lofton subject rule, and then in the old times, and then we use the Lofton subject rule for writing some sentences, and then these sentences may seem grammatically incorrect. Let me talk about some of these sentences. For example, there is one illustrated on page 131. Is that and they both was locked onto it. So you may tell me, hold on, there is a mistake. You should say, and they both were yoked onto it. Yes, you're right, but in the past, this sentence was correct. This sentence was grammatically correct. So you cannot refute this sentence by saying that, oh, this sentence is incorrect, because it is correct in the old times. It was correct in the old times. So, for my illustration, I'll mainly talk about the current usage, not the old usage of the subject-verb agreement. So, as I said before, we can talk about the subject-verb agreement in terms of the Lofton subject rule. There are two versions of the Lofton subject rule. The first version is that it can cause verbs take the S form with all subjects, except with the personal pronouns I, we, you, and they when they are directly adjacent to the verb. For example, we won't use I takes. Instead, we will use I take. So, for the version B of the Lofton subject rule, there are three sub-rules. The first one is that all third singular subjects and where preserved the old second singular though always take verbs. The second one is that the type of subject constraints. All other subjects except the personal pronouns I, we, you, they take verbs variably. And the third one is concerning the position of subject constraints. Well, there is long adjacency of subject and verb previous variable s. So I think we should pay special attention to the third rule. It's because it may apply in principle to all types of subjects. This means on the one hand that the prohibition of verb s with I, we, you, and they may be overridden if the verb and the pronoun allow adjacent. So with respect to the other environments, on the other hand, it means that there is commonly a quantitative effect further increasing the likelihood of verbal s. However, the nature of this constraint is difficult to define exactly. Some of the effects in question appear to be cross-dialectical universals that can be observed even in varieties not directly affected by Lofton subject rule. There seems to be a strong tendency in many dialects of English that clauses that diverge from the canonical structure may display lack of agreement. For instance, it has often been observed that complex subjects consisting of two conjoined singular noun phrases may trigger an invariant third singular verb form, as in the following example. I and my company was arrested 3 days ago. So why we use the word verb was? Because we would like to talk about my company. Or in other words, we would like the word was followed by my company instead of I am my company. So we use the verb was instead of the verb were. So here I would like to talk about another phenomenon. So I would like to raise the example first. There is 2 or 3 lords and ladies more married. So you may ask me why we use the word is? Actually, it is very similar. Again, this is so-called subject-verb inversion, which means that we should trace the usage of the verb by the subjects after the verb. So this is because we would like to emphasize the 2 or 3 lords and ladies, and then 2 or 3 lords and ladies as a group, and then we would like to talk about this group, so we use the verb is instead of are. So then I think that's all for today. Thanks for listening for the subject verb agreements.